Welcome to today's episode of the Wes and Jay podcast, where we get real about entrepreneurship. I'm Jay Silva, a business consultant and real estate entrepreneur.
Hi, I'm Wes Rosenberg. I'm a self-made businessman in the service industry. And today we're driving into realities of building a business from scratch, and struggles and victories and lessons that only come from experience.
Exactly. Forget the social media glamour. This is entrepreneurship in the trenches. Let's jump right in. Wes, I think we can both agree. Entrepreneurship and being a business owner is not about Lamborghinis and champagne and glamour, right?
I got you. You know what? Being in business or being an entrepreneur is a lot of work. You know, if you don't have the drive, find a different type of way of feeding yourself. But you have to have a lot of drive, and it comes with a lot of different things that you never in your mind would imagine that you would experience. For example, one time I had someone that interviewed for a job, and then when I go to check him out, I found out that he killed his uncle and cut him up in pieces and burned him. I mean, you just don't run into these things. You know, you just don't run into these things in your normal life. And this guy wanted a job from me. You have other situations where maybe you buy a brand new vehicle and one of your employees rolls it on the freeway. You know, just things you got to deal with. Now, if you were at work, you know, at a press or something, a printing press or something, you know, you wouldn't experience that because you don't have someone driving your vehicle around town. Or in this case, I had this most recent one. I have this one of my past executives that was highly talented. I hired him. But what happened over time, he wanted more ownership. And not that I wouldn't give it to him, but he didn't have any money to give for his ownership. So he was always going to continue to be an employee. What I did was to try to help that or resolve that. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. You want to have somewhat of a partnership, you have no money in it. What I will do is you give me good service and be a good employee for me and help me meet my dreams or my desires of where I want this business to go. And when I go to sell it, I will sell it to you for 25% less than what it was actually worth. If you build it really big, so for example, to anybody else on the street, I'd sell it for 100% of the value. To you, I'll give you a cut and deduct about 25%. That would give you kind of 50% partnership. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It was an idea I had. Well, as time went on, he started wanting more. He wanted to call the shots. He wanted me out, and he wanted to take over, trying to squeeze me out of my own business. Well, I wouldn't do it, so he left. He left me. Okay, now that was a punch in the gut right there. Now I got to find someone who's a leader for that department, and then do it fast.
Absolutely. And let me pause here just to ask a question or to put into context, right? But in this case, I just want to give more context that we are talking about, as Wesley put, an executive, but it's also an executive that does business development, right? So he brings business. He used to, right, bring business to you, correct?
Yeah.
When he worked for you, correct. So he is a money maker, and was back then, which makes it, you would say, a challenge when he leaves. One, you have to worry to replace the guy. And two, you got to worry that the guy is going to go out there and start poaching on your existing clients. So how did you do it, Wes?
So that's what he did. He left and started approaching existing clients. Now, I know I was going to lose some clients. There's just nothing I can do about it. There's no law protecting the employer because of non-competes are now considered illegal, at least where I'm at. So what do I have to stand on? My biggest fear was at that point in time, yes, I was going to lose clients. I came to the conclusion of okay, I am going to lose clients, but my thing is to protect what I got. So what I did was I scrambled trying to find a strong leader for that department so the guys didn't feel like they were abandoned and no one cared and there was no guidance, no accountability. If I
Mm-hmm.
don't have someone watching and that's kind of what happened. So I found a guy. It didn't work out. It took me too long of a time to find someone to replace him, someone with the same moxie. And I went I went and I went through a couple different leaders, but with that, what I also found happening is that a lot of the guys weren't being led correctly. For example, they had a 2-hour job and they would come back to the shop for 6 hours. Well, and then I'm paying them for 4 additional hours because they're hiding out someplace. There was no one there to be accountable. And my company is bigger. I have 50 employees. So I can't sit and watch every single person and micromanage every person. That part of the job would have been done by his manager, which it was
Mm-hmm.
very tough finding a strong manager. And he keeps and now the guy is now he waited a year and a half. I don't know if that was respect or what it was, but now he's pirating all the people that worked for him here by bringing them in for more
Mm.
money.
Oh, so he's adding. So on top of that, he is adding the I am going to solicit your employees.
Yes.
Ooh, and obviously, I'm sure he ain't coming for the worst, is he?
He's not, excuse me, I missed that.
He's not coming for the worst of them, is he?
No, he's coming for all my best ones. That's my problem.
Obviously, obviously.
So
So let me say this real quick. I'll give you an anecdote, which was an interview that I mentioned to you that I did with a high stakes realtor here in Brazil. And I actually asked her that specific question, Wes, because she was saying how she brings people, just like you, she brings people up, teach them the business, right? And they learn how to develop the business in a thing. But they do the same thing. They go and they open their own brokerage, which in Brazil is 20 times easier than to open your own in the US. And then they start taking her clients and they said, but what do you do? It's like, I let it go. I pity them. I am that good. That's what she said. I pity them. I am that good. And she's been, 20 years in the business, probably hundreds of sales a year, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that approach, Wes. I don't know if you have that approach of just forget about it. I wouldn't forget about it. Here would be my approach, right? My recommendation. First of all, let's find out, why is he taking? Why is he able to take? What are your people missing, right? What is the allure? I think the first thing is stop the nonsense. Call this guy back in the office. Let's sit down. Are you looking? Why? What is he offering? You are important to me. What is happening, right? If you think this guy is important, I think transparency is critical. That is on the employee side. On the client side, if he gets to poach yours, you get to poach his. Oh,
yeah, the
man.
issue is that I'm non-union and they're union, so their pay scale's a lot higher.
So you added a complexity to it.
You know what? I don't have a problem paying the extra money, but where this is coming down is benefits, pension programs, and health insurance. Now we give health insurance. It's now in America. I don't know if you know this, but like a lot of times there's a pool of people, and the more people in the pool, the lesser the cost of the insurance. Now, for example, I have 50 people. My insurance is going to be X for my 50 people. But if I was in a union, the union maybe have 900 people, and the cost of that insurance is a lot cheaper because of volume. And with that volume, they can then say, hey, we can still charge a little more money to the customer, which is the employer, and get them better benefits, better medical insurance, lesser deductibles, things like that. where that's very hard for me to compete as a small businessman because I'm not at that, do I sell my soul to the devil and join the union? And then I owe them money besides the employees. And then I got to pay them everything that the union says I have to pay them, whether they're worth it or not. I always like non-union because I'll pay you what you're worth. And I paid people handsomely. And I do have insurance and I do have a pension program of some sort that maybe not as lucrative. Well, mine's more of a 401k. It's a different system, but mine's very lucrative. So
Well,
I don't know, I know she says I let it go and she's better than that. I feel the same way. However, how can you combat this? I mean, usually I'm getting hey, I'm giving my 2-week notice today or I'm quitting as of today. Now it's too late for me to sit and try to negotiate with this employee. Another problem I have is that a lot of these employees, they think that we can't live without them. And I do not want to give that darn impression to my employees that I can't live without you. I own my company. You don't own my company through hostage situation.
I agree. And Wesley, I believe that, of course, there's tons of literature on steps to take, but you already know quite a bit, which is there is the benefit package on a union, right?
Yes.
That has more weight. Now, what are the disadvantages, in your opinion, that this employee would have by joining the union? Does your company give some additional level of value to that employee that he does not necessarily get in the union, such as I don't remember the last time you had to lay off a bunch of people, right? Maybe during COVID, and I even doubt it. Did you? No, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't. But I've never laid off anyone because we were slow. I've always let them go because there was a reason that they had to go.
So yeah, so I should have asked the question a different way. When was the last time that you laid off people because business was not where it needed to be, right? Slow periods, etc. You haven't. Union contracts, I don't know. Here's my thought. Is that true? That when you're a plumber or an electrician or whatever that is, right, on the trades business, union jobs are mostly project-based. So there is a development or there is a remodel, and then the union gets that job to do, to install, 700 toilets or whatever, right? Fixtures. Who cares? That?
Well, we do that too, though. So, and they take jobs that don't have contracts. But yes, I guess you could say more union jobs are probably contract based with the customer.
Okay. That's what I suspected. I'm not saying it's a 100%, right? But it's a bigger chunk of their job is contract based, meaning when a contract ends, and that happened a lot back in Vegas because all the casinos there, when you're building, it's all unionized, right? So I was part of the 995 Teamsters that I worked at Luxor as a front desk. Once I lost that job, but anyways, so I found myself, 22, 23 years old, and got a job, going to school. And I'm like, well, at least I need something, right? Starbucks money at that point. So I went to the union, and they got me a job doing remodel and repair casino when they were remodeling all the rooms. So that was a union job. But once that job ends, then you have a down period until the union places you. And sometimes it's a month, sometimes 2 months, sometimes 2 weeks, depending on how the economy is, right, for those folks. So there is that advantage that if they are with you, you are as close to recession-proof. Some business, right? Some trades businesses are as close to recession-proof as it can be. As long as you pivot the type of service you're providing, you go from building to just maintenance, etc., right? You're good. So that is a benefit that sometimes these folks don't understand, that you can possibly research some data and says a typical union employee goes without a job for 4 weeks out of the year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those advantages, I believe that there's nothing illegal in saying, in contrasting what they have with what they, what's the trade-off? I think that's super critical. What do you
They're
think?
also saying that because we work in a couple different counties,
Mhm.
you're crossing the line into other unions. They're allowing these people to join both unions, let's say, and then be able to give two pensions, not just one.
Everybody's trying to get there, aren't
Get
they?
an angle. Yeah, well, this is what they're promising him, two pensions. This my last employee here that's thinking of jumping ship. They want to give him two pensions and pay him what he's making now. Is they want to pay him $8 more an hour. No, eight. They want to pay him like $13 more an hour. I offered to pay him that in the past, and he said no. Why? I have no idea. I didn't want to lose him in the first place. But see, they put me in a hostage situation where I didn't want to lose him. I was going to raise my rates, and we raised them a little bit, but we didn't raise them up to where their standards are. And well, if I need him, I was going to pay him. He felt honorable to stay and not take all that money, but now they're coming back with a vengeance, really wanting him. So now they're making him fucking think twice about. They're making him think twice about what he wants to, about coming over. Well, I can't compete with that. You don't know if they're giving him bonuses, sign-on bonuses of 5-10 grand. I'm not going to do it to keep my own people. Give them a bonus to stay. If that makes any sense.
It is an employment at will, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So nothing prevents you from doing it for a little bit until you find somebody and then let him go after. He would quit on you in a second.
Well, I'm done with them in a sense because I am not going to be held hostage every 3 months for another raise or every 3 months for something else. And I don't know if you know this as well. Their scale to their customer is $220 an hour. We're at $150, and we were going to raise ours to $177. So we're still lower. And what I'm saying, where I'm going with this is, in the event I had to pay them more money, I raise my wages to cover the costs. That's all.
Correct.
And so that's why I says I don't have a problem paying you if you're worth it. I don't have a problem whatsoever. Another guy came up to me last week and said he's been with me 5 months, 2 years out of school. He's been with me 5 months. He says, hey, I want this amount of money. I want this kind of money, or I'm going to be quitting. I said, well, drop your keys off. I don't know what to tell you. You're not worth it. If you were worth it, I don't have a problem paying you. You're not knowledgeable enough yet or talented enough yet to take that money. So drop your keys off and go. Well, he put his tail between his legs and stayed. But, because it's a sense of security, I suppose he's got a job. But he didn't know he was going to get fired. But maybe he's looking right now. I don't know. But one of the big problems of running your own business is people and your employees trying to hold you up for more money or not perform their tasks. These are all things you run into. I had guys they would check in and out of jobs, like they would check into work. We have it where you would check in and out on the phone. And, technology is growing, and now we have software that they're following the business on software with which we are as well, and know all their job tasks to do on the computer, so they have it on their phone. Well, I've catch people in the past that were checking into the job at their house, not getting there on time, or getting done with the job maybe at 2:00, then going to the grocery store to pick up dinner, and then maybe racing home, and then check out at home an hour and a half later. GPS as well, which I found out. But I couldn't afford all of that at one time when I first started it. So then the next thing, after getting new software, trying to be more efficient in that direction, now I had to figure out the loopholes of how to cheat me out of money there. So then I had to get a dollar and GPS system.
It's always it can be. So we can move to the other topic. I just want to say this was every time I fix or I make one improvement in my company, right? In my short-term rentals, every time I fix something. So I started with, when I first started 8 years ago, that I put the first Airbnb, I had just a regular lock with a key, right? And I would put a little chain, you know what I mean? A little thing to identify
Yeah.
the person get there, open, boom. Of course, you get more people, that starts causing problems. Where are they going to get the key? Blah, blah, blah. They lose the key. You got to make another one, right? So I went into the first electronic locks, which were, you had to program all the codes. So I programmed 5 codes and I would just recycle them in the message. Well, then now you have like over 20 doors. Well, that makes it impossible, especially for repeat guests. They start memorizing. So there's crazy people that just like, oh, I don't have a reservation, but I remember the code from this time, right? So like, whoa, now I got to change that manually. Now that's another problem. I can't do that. Now you're upgrading to something that is smart, a smart lock that connects. Well, now that comes with a cost. Now, when that doesn't work, hard to fix, right? So everything that you fix one thing, something else comes up. It's part of the game. It is just hard sometimes when it is not just a process thing, it's a human thing, right? You fix one thing with a human and then they find a different way to, like you said, to cheat. And then you got to do something else. It's difficult, but it's part of it. I think in your case, the last thing I say about this topic is there are many solutions to go about. And I think the number one is, if you really want to keep someone and they are, of course, being, shopping around or people are coming after them, it would be to seriously sit down with them. Like you said, straight up, I'm not going to be your hostage. This is what you're worth. What is he offering? Are you sure? Are you going to give me 2 weeks or not? You're not? Then buy, right? You can do that too. Like, then that's okay. Buy today. Now, if you want to give me 2 weeks or do the transition and you really think that the union is the thing, let's be adults about it, right? And let's, do a transition. You help me hire a replacement, and I'll even give you a bonus if you hire somebody good. You see what I'm saying? There's also a piece that people do when you're talking about executive level, right? An executive is treated as an executive. So when he decides that he's going to move, he's going to come to you and say, hey, I'm about to move. I have this person, a great candidate. It's just an opportunity that I can't, right? So you can have also that conversation with him. I'm happy that you're moving to something better. It's cool. But you're a professional, my friend. You are the head of this department and you have 7 or 8 people under you that depend on you. Why would you leave this thing unattended? Why would you not have a conversation with me man to man so we can do the best for both of us? Because the world goes around. How many times did I not go back to work for a company that I once left for something better? I've done it. And it's part of life, right? And many times you come back at a higher level because you went elsewhere, got different skills, right? Dealt with different problems, and you're even more marketable to your original boss. It's part of the deal. So I think there's also that conversation to have with the gentleman to say, yo, you might be looking at this from a very narrow view, and I would like you to amplify. As a business owner, we can't just see the trees. We have to be able to see the forest. And if he's a good executive, he should be able to see the forest that his career really is and manage that appropriately. And I think as his boss and probably somewhat mentor, at least he should see you that way. If he doesn't, he's silly, knowing you. I think it would be a good conversation to have. At least I would highly encourage.
Okay. I'll take your opinion under advisement and think this through and see how I'm going to try to approach something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun thing because it's not going to be the only time. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not going to be the only time. All right. The question that I had that I wanted to discuss is kind of similar. So I came to Brazil, and I mentioned to you in our private conversations to do a business development as well as develop some of my mother's land to help with her retirement, right? Personal, but okay. Of course, I hired a realtor to help me do the whole evaluation. I'm a realtor in Cleveland, but I'm not here. I don't know the market. So I hired someone. I paid for the costs. I said, whatever I close on, the commission is yours. You're representing me. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what deal I do. And I said, I represent a group of investors, which I do. I have a couple people that invest with me on Cleveland. And I said, I'm going to go there to resolve some family things, but I'm going to use this time to do a full assessment of what is the true possibility there to either replicate or shift a little bit our portfolio down to Latin America as it is growing. And I saw many opportunities, but I brought this realtor along with the idea that I would close soon. But Brazil is slow. Like, one contract that I want to write, talked to the attorney last Tuesday, he still hasn't delivered. And he's a simple contract, right? It's like that kind of thing. Things are slow. It's near Christmas. And I got an email from him last night, one of those, I guess it's not a Dear John email, but it's one of those like, I have no clue what we're doing. I thought you were coming here to represent investors, but it looks like you're only looking to develop, your family's land and stuff. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I'm like, damn, I'm not being able to communicate my vision well. That's how I feel that he is kind of, you know what I mean, moving to the other side. But I don't know if I should care. Should I give a crap? Did I explain myself well?
Yeah, you explained yourself well. You could go back to him and say, maybe I did not express my vision. Yes, I have family here. Yes, I had to attend to some things, but I wanted this to be a twofold business trip and get this other portion off the ground. And that's why I brought you involved, to get in there. And then see where he's saying he doesn't know what you're doing. So with that, maybe you can explain it to him. Maybe you have him back on board, or maybe you got to go down there again and make different connections with someone else, which is going to cost money.
Oh no. So thank you for saying that. He's one connection, but he introduced me to so many people. I have like 4 or 5 of him ready to work with me. Right. It's not, I just think that he's an incredibly talented guy. He's only 2 years younger than me. Right. Just not as experienced in business. Right. He knows his little lane there, but that's, from what I see, is limited to that piece. But there were many business opportunities that have come up, right? Like I came up with a document that I'll share with you later that addresses a very critical problem of the Brazilian market, which is when states get transferred. Properties sit in the market. It takes at least 30 months just to transfer the state from the person that passed away to the siblings. And during that period, the property stays vacant. And once they put to sell, they put to a price that is usually takes more than a year to sell it, right? So now you had 30 plus 12, you're at 42. There are many pockets of very expensive square footage in the largest cities in Brazil that you have empty houses. And sometimes it looks like 2008 in the US. Remember, for sale.
Yeah.
The only thing is that is not a recession. It is not, I guess it is an oversupply, but not because there's no demand for the supply, but because the folks that own are pricing that property so far out there that nobody can buy. Now, here's one thing too that I find interesting. You will have a house that folks are trying to sell for $800,000. Okay, $800,000.
Got it.
5,000 square feet of land, about 3,000 built.
I'm
But
listening.
yearly taxes are like nothing. They would be like less than 500 a year. So while it is expensive to go through the process of transferring the property because you need attorneys and divide everything equally, after you go through that process, which in the case of my family costs us about $80,000 in the last 2 years between us all, after that, it's not that expensive to hold that property because the taxes are so small, right? So I think that is also a government thing, that you are having taxes so low that is cheaper to hold the property empty and screw up supply for the city than to reduce the price to the price that the market is willing to pay. You see what I'm saying? So everything kind of, it's a mess. I went into a whole thing about the market.
But this is what I suggest. This is what I think. I would understand. I would figure out whether it's through attorney knowledge or whatever. Understand the process, the government process, and then you'd have to go in and you'd have to lobby against the government to change the process. Now, I've seen business owners do that.
Yeah, but that would be an undertaking that somebody in my, it wouldn't even be my goal. You know what my goal would be?
What?
My goal is to flip the thing on its head. Right now, when somebody dies, the family's only point of contact to do everything is their attorney. Then after there's a transfer, then they might get a realtor involved, right? They might. So the attorney is performing all kinds of functions that he's not trained to. Valuation of assets, right? The willingness of somebody to sell, all of it, right? How the market is, how that house can, or that real property can be monetized. And I'm saying, let's do this package in a way that every family member from the get-go knows the upside and the downside of acting fast and swiftly, right? Upside and downside of acting fast and swiftly. So everyone is looking at things in a more numerical thing versus emotion. Because there's a lot of non-movement due to bitter things in all families that happened 20 years ago. And I'm not saying just from personal experience. When I talk to my friends and my network, folks of the same age that, you know, their grandparents are passing away now, so their parents are going through this dispute, it is the same thing, family after family. People have land all over the place that doesn't sell because they cannot figure out what to do with it, because somebody says it's worth 10, and you know what I mean? It's just different ways. So there's a big market for that. So that's what I'm trying to fix, and I have an idea, and that's what I want to bring this guy to help me with, which is to create these CMAs, a real CMA of the property in the US style that not just looks at what people are advertising their homes, but are actually looking what things were sold for and how long it stayed in the market. This is not is not information easily available, right?
In Brazil.
It's not. But because I made these contacts, so I have a guy that is a partner at a brokerage here in this town, that he said, whatever you need, you have my inventory, you can look at it, and you can do your pilot program that way, right? And try to see if you can get in to these properties that are sitting for more than a year, that came from a state sale or whatever, right? A division of assets. And you can say, hey, this is a package, it's free of charge initially, obviously, right? And we're going to tell you how you can get the best of both worlds. Monetize your property or sell or whatever, you know, in the best way for your family, that their attorney and their realtor are not doing. Because the realty companies here, they will sign the listing agreement, they won't do squat. They won't decorate the property. If it is not more than like 10 million, forget about it. They're doing nothing. They're not doing anything. It's very sad. No real picture package, drones, none of that. And the photographer is so cheap, Wes. It's like you get a photographer for $300 a day, and he would probably can do 5 houses for you. 5.
I see what you're
right. So you do that package for free, right? And you say, hey, this is the package. Would you like us to sell your house? Because once you are past 6 months, there's no exclusivity of listing in Brazil. 6 months is the limit. If you went to a realtor and he couldn't sell in 6 months, and that mark, it's over. Anybody, you can use any company to list, right? So you're already in there. You provided value. You establish your sales funnel to the right price. You list, you sell, you make the money. Easy. Easy in terms, but it's fairly easy. Or you can also sell that fucking package to the other company as well. Say, hey, your guys' prices are wrong. Give that to your client. Pay me a fee. There are many ways to do it, but there's well, I got a website name and things like that. But anyways, those are some of the ideas. Current topics, current events. What has been in my mind and that we mentioned before we pressed play was the United Healthcare murder. What are your thoughts, Wesley?
A disgruntled person. I think I'm really curious about this. I don't feel like I have enough. Well, we don't have enough data and understand why the guy did what he did. They're on the hunt for him right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I was told that president made at like $10 million a year. There's a lot of jealousy out there. But if I lost a loved one because I couldn't get, I don't know, the diabetic medication because it didn't fall under the parameters of the insurance company, that, for example, like if you fill up, you take a medication and then it gets re-prescribed you every month, but for some reason you took it a little early, so now you can't get your prescription early, your next prescription, until the time has gone past of what the last prescription amount should have lasted you. And does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then then somehow you get cheated out of medication and someone dies. There's gonna be payback. I mean, someone's gonna say, yeah, that guy's making $10 million and my mother died because she didn't get her diabetic medication or a bee sting medication, or whatever. Right. So I don't know. I'm really curious about that, and I'd like to know more about that. What's your thoughts on it?
Oh, Wesley, I have so many thoughts. My initial thought, I was like, damn. Like literally, I was surprised of everything being caught on tape the way that it was. Like that was like eerie, right? Just looking at it. But then when they said the guy was, because they said CEO and then it said United Healthcare, I'm like, whoa.
I know.
It's like, they didn't even need to tell me that there was a lawsuit for $100 million because they were dumping stocks and doing crazy stuff right against him and the executives. Just the fact that it is United Healthcare, just the fact that we know how bloated our healthcare system is, just the fact that they use algorithm up the wazoo to approve or deny claims and totally forget the human being that is behind that signature already gives so much motive for anybody to do anything, especially when nowadays that it's okay for CEOs and business owners and anybody to just flaunt their wealth for the sake of flaunting their wealth, right? So I think that in my opinion, there's a cause and effect. I never think it is okay to murder anybody just because they wronged you. But it would be naive for anybody to think that is unnatural for people to have that desire when you can put a straight line, right, to somebody's actions on your loved one's behalf. And I think that's what we're seeing out there. Now, one thing I'll say, a lot of comments that I said, that I read, and there's even some videos out there that folks are saying, oh, this will start a revolution and this, that, and the other. I vehemently disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree. Here's what I believe that will happen. We'll see companies like Brinks, all those security company stocks go up. You will see more closed fence condominiums of people that make above $2 million. You start seeing more of that versus more equality. They will invest the properties on securing themselves versus adjusting what's out there. And I say that because you come to any country in Latin America and you will see how the people with money live. They live in cages because instead of investing in developing the country and getting equality through economical incentives, right? They don't do that. They invest in their security, so whoever doesn't have, don't touch them. Can't touch them. So that I see of it's more the inertia should take us there, unless there is someone that really puts their foot down. And I hope that the next president somehow will do that. Although I doubt it, just because he is part of that elite. No matter what, he is. So it's like there's a lot of pressure.
Are you talking about Trump?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure to prevent him, even if he wants to addressing that problem. A lot. As strong-willed as he may be, man, oh man, those companies, they give too much money to everybody that holds the key power in the U.S. That's my opinion. That is my opinion.
Well, I got a question for you then that brought up another one. Sosa, he's on Yankees, I think. He just did the biggest baseball contract in the history with the Reds of like $700 some odd million over 15 years. Do you think he's getting too much money too? He's an employee now. He's not an employer.
Yeah. So in these cases, having been a professional basketball player that never made money in Brazil, I stopped when I was 20 years old. Knowing how much work it goes even to be a semi-professional and be competitive, it's hard for me to say the guy didn't deserve, because if they didn't deserve, they wouldn't pay him, right? Now, on the other hand, do I think the salary of all players are a little bit too inflated for how much entertainment they provide us and how much drive and how much guts, right? When you go back 20, 30 years. Oh, yes, I do. It's way too inflated, right? We don't see the same thing. At least I don't. But no, I don't care. I don't, because if that billionaire, the company that owns the Yankees, whatever, said that he's worth 750, I guess he is, because the TV deals are way too big. So, I don't know, that's my thought on that. I always find it super interesting, because if you gave me 750 right now, I'll even to play baseball, Wes, I'll look at the clause and say, if I get hurt, how much do I get? I'll just get hurt and take 75 and go retire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All that practice, all that stuff. I'm like, why?
I'll tell you a funny, real quick little tidbit. So, and I see your perspective, and another way I see the player's perspective too. For example, I was one time I knew this guy who was a maintenance man out at a really fancy golf course in Wisconsin. And I went into his office and I'm talking with him, and he had all these pictures of all these wonderful football players that were really good. Herschel Walker, Tony Dorsett, all these big famous guys that played football. And I'm like, he's got all these signed signatures. I said, how do you meet all these people? He said, they come and they golf here, and then I ask them for their autograph. I said, well, how do you know? I mean, like that guy, if he's not wearing his uniform, I don't know who the hell that guy is. He said, I approach all the guys that are crippled up, and I know they played football.
All hurt?
What's that?
All hurt?
Not hurt, crippled up. They may have, you know how getting old costs money.
Right.
Getting old costs money, and I mean not costs money. Getting old gets painful. Well, playing ball and getting old is worse. So he said they need to be paid extra money in the event they can't work when they get done with their sport. So they kind of have to get a lifetime payment. Let's just pretend, God forbid, I broke my neck on the football field and I can't work the rest of my life. Do I go on disability, or should the company pay me enough money to be able to take care of myself till my death? Correct. That's why I think that some of the money is good, that they should make a little more money. Plus the entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, because it's a share, right? Because it was like a lot of folks were criticizing, Bronny James and the Lakers for even drafting him, right? The son of LeBron. But when you just saw that his jersey was the second most sold, and he quintuple what they are paying him in 5 years, you're like, it's not about basketball. It is about money.
Yeah, it is about marketing.
Yeah, that's all it is. That's
Yeah.
all it is. As we wrap up, we want to hear from you. What's a challenge you faced recently in your business, and how did you handle it?
Join us on this journey of building a community of entrepreneurs who are in it for the long haul and not the shortcuts. No gimmicks.
Okay, I'm gonna read that one again, Wes.
I will.
Let me read mine, and then 1, 2, 3. As we wrap up, we want to hear from you. What is a challenge you faced recently in your business, and how did you handle it?
Join us on this journey of building a community of entrepreneurs who are in it for the long haul and not the shortcuts. No gimmicks.
Subscribe to catch our next episode, where we'll discuss whatever's in our mind that day, and usually it's going to be something actionable that you guys can either give feedback or use it in your own world. And we'll follow up on some of the things that we discussed today, updating you guys on how things are going. We really enjoy this episode and the conversation, Wesley, as usual. Thank you so much, and looking forward to the next one, man.
Looking forward to hearing from all of you.